کاوش مدیا.
Well, first, as President-elect Biden said shortly after the killing of Qasem Soleimani, no American would mourn his passing with all the blood of American soldiers that he has on his hands. But the basic question that Bill Burns and I were posing in that piece was, did that action make America safer? Did it protect our national interests? And I would submit to you 1 year later, the answer to that question is no. Iran is closer to a nuclear weapon today than they were 1 year ago. Iran has been emboldened to continue its attacks on shipping and oil infrastructure in the Gulf. We did see proxies of Iran attack American interests in Iraq over the course of the past year, and that remains a continuing, ongoing concern. So all of the promises that we got from this administration about how their policy was going to get us a better deal on the nuclear front, was going to stop Iran's malign behavior across the region, those promises did not bear out. In fact, Iran continues to act in ways that are at odds with the interests of the United States and its allies, and nothing about the action that was taken 1 year ago today set that back. In fact, in some ways, the case that Bill Burns and I made, and the case that I would continue to make today, is that a strategy that is so focused on one aspect of American power and completely sets aside diplomacy is not a strategy that is ultimately going to achieve the strategic objectives the United States wants to achieve.
So if you go back into the deal, let's assume that the United States goes back, Iran goes back into compliance, the timelines are already now much shorter at the point at which the deal essentially begins to lapse or to expire. What would you look for in a follow-on agreement? In particular, the issue that most people seem to be most concerned about is Iran's ballistic missile capability. That is what the Israelis, for example, are most exercised about. And it strikes me that would be the hardest one because the Iranians view that as an existential defense. They have memories of the Iran-Iraq War, 8 years during which they suffered from a rain of ballistic missiles. Do you think that you could get a ballistic missile deal with Iran?
Well, first, just to set the groundwork here, President-elect Biden has said that if Iran comes back into compliance with its terms under the nuclear deal, that is to say it reduces its stockpile, it takes down some of its centrifuges and other measures so that its program is back in a box, then we would come back in. But that would become the basis for this follow-on negotiation. To your question directly about ballistic missiles, our view is that ballistic missiles and Iran's ballistic missile program has to be on the table as part of that follow-on negotiation. We also believe that there can be conversations that go beyond just the permanent 5 members of the Security Council, the P5+1, and that involve regional players as well. And that in that broader negotiation, we can ultimately secure limits on Iran's ballistic missile technology, and that is what we intend to try to pursue through diplomacy that involves both the direct nuclear file and a broader set of regional issues. Well, for the very logic of the Iran nuclear deal was that it would be narrowly focused on the question of Iran's nuclear program, and that the United States would retain all of its capacities, its sanctions abilities, its intelligence abilities, and others, its deterrent capacities, to push back against Iran on all other issues.
آنچه در مورد ما میگویند